Okay, so hopefully you're all in the right spot for class. This is Digital Tools for Designers. It's Architecture 135 for the fall of 2019. So my guess is that you're all in the correct spot. I know the room number is a little bit on the confusing side because depending on where you enter, it's different numbers, so such is life. This actually used to be divided into a couple rooms. That's why it has different room numbers. Anyway, so we're here and we're going to start learning some good stuff this semester. So a little bit of information about me as we get started. I have two email addresses. If you email either one, it'll get to me, which is fine. My school-sponsored email is gadams@dvc.edu. These are, by the way, written down on your syllabus, so if you lose it, you can find it there. And then also grant@digitaltoolsforarchitects.com will get to me as well. Chances are, if you send me a school email that goes to gadams@dvc, I will reply from the Digital Tools for Architects email. So it's just good for you to know that's there. Unlike a lot of professors, I actually give you my phone number as well. So if you really need me, you can text me. That's fine. It's right there. If you text me at 3 in the morning, I'm probably not going to text you back. Just saying. If you text me at 5 in the morning, I might, because I tend to be up. So it varies a little bit. So I give you my phone number, but I reserve the right not to respond to you, if that makes sense. So if you call me, I probably won't answer. But that's the way it is. You should be able to get a hold of me. If you're stuck doing something and you really need my help, that's what it's there for. Likewise, if you're not going to make class or you're running late, we'll talk about that in a second, I ask that you text me and let me know. My office hours, I teach two classes, the 135, which is right now, and the 136, which is directly after this class. So I split my office hours. The office hours on Mondays are in the morning. They're the first hour before class. I know nobody wants to get up that early, but such is life. I try to make it accessible to you. So I will be here from 6:55 to 7:55 every Monday morning. Truth is, I'm here on Wednesday mornings too, if you really want to talk to me. So I'm here. Then on Wednesdays, I'll be here after my second class. So from 2:15 to 3:15, I'll be here. So some of you have class right after, so you can't do one or the other. They're there. I will either be in this room or I'll be in my office, which is ET 104B. It's right across the hallway there through those glass doors. So you can find me there. If I'm not around, it's probably because I'm helping somebody in the laser cutter room or somewhere. Generally, if it's one of those time frames, I'm around somewhere. So just look for me, and you'll be able to find me. So I used to not put this slide in, but I figured you guys probably, here you are, and you want to know who on earth am I and why am I here in the first place. So a little bit of background about me and what I'm doing here, etc. I was actually hired in 2007, which is a long time ago if you do the math, to teach this class in particular, which is pretty fun. So I've been teaching it for a long time. I really like this class. But a little bit more about me and my education, because that's what you guys are all in. You care about that sort of thing. People used to ask me advice about Berkeley. I've been gone so long, it's hard for me to give good concrete advice anymore. But I have 2 degrees. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Architecture from UC Berkeley. I graduated in 2004, which is also ancient history now. That is a 4-year unaccredited architecture degree. So as those of you kind of move on and you figure out what your path is going to be, I'm throwing this out there for those of you that kind of know that there's different options when it comes to architecture. So this is a 4-year degree. It's offered by UC Berkeley. It's still offered by UC Berkeley. Took a year off and then went back for my Master of Architecture degree, which is called an MArch for short. I graduated in 2007 with that degree. That was a 2-year degree. So in the lingo of architecture programs, it was a 4+2 program. So 4 years undergrad, 2 years of grad school. Depending on how you set things up, like a Cal Poly degree is a 5-year Bachelor of Architecture degree. So it's a little different. So somebody will go through this with you a little bit more, but I like to throw that out there for those of you that are kind of thinking ahead and that sort of thing. So all that's great. That was ancient history. Why am I here? What do I do? Etc. So I'm only a part-time teacher here at DVC. I teach 2 days a week. I'm here on Mondays and I'm here on Wednesdays. I am not here on the other days of the week. As my other job, call it my primary job, I do design work. I'm a property manager. I'm a general contractor. I'm in the middle of building 5 units in downtown Lafayette. That's what that picture is of right now. It's been going on for almost 2 years. We're hoping to be wrapped up before 2 years, which would be in December. So Fingers crossed, October, November-ish, we'll get wrapped up with that project. So I'm actually out in the field. I do work. I work with my hands, etc. When I'm in here, I teach the computer classes. You guys are here for 135, which will be kind of your intro class to computers and architecture. I also teach the 136 class, though you don't have to take them in order. A few of you are in both, so you get a bunch of me today. Actually, you get a bunch of me all semester, which is the more advanced, the kind of architecture, modeling, 3D modeling, rendering, etc. So we'll go through those, and I'll give you a little bit more information about what we're going to cover in class. First off, there is a course website. It is not the Canvas system that's sponsored by DVC. I don't like the Canvas system. I do my own thing. So this is separate and apart from that. It's pretty easy. Everybody seems to get used to it really quickly. If you struggle a little bit in the beginning, just ask me. I'll walk you through it step by step, and I promise you within a week, you'll have it down without a problem. So this website is digitaltoolsforarchitects.com, though technically if you went to digitaltoolsfordesigners.com, you get to the same place. And this has a bunch of stuff on it. And a lot of you have already gotten your email logins and that sort of thing sent to you, so you're already a little bit familiar with it. I'll go through it during the lab section today, but it contains all of your exercises and all of your assignments. So every piece of paper that I hand out to you, I don't have any off the top of my head, these guys, they're all on the website. So let's say you weren't here today, for example, and you needed to do the exercise. If you come to me on Wednesday and say, can I have the handout for the exercise, I'll say, go get it on the website, because I don't keep copies after the day. So I hand them out, that's it. Likewise, you lost your syllabus, you needed some specific piece of information, it's on the website. Go back and get it. So I try to do that. Every semester I'm tempted to go paperless. Maybe I'll do it this semester, see how you guys do. There's always maybe 10 people who want the paper. So it's a little hard. Maybe I'll start making less copies and you can decide. There's a calendar that'll walk you through what we're doing every day, when things are due, etc. It's tentative right now. I haven't finalized everything. It evolves a little bit. We'll talk more about that next class. When you finish your exercises or your assignments, again, we'll talk about those in length in a little bit. When you finish your exercises or assignments, you're going to post them on the course website. That's how you turn them in. So it's very rare when you actually turn in something physical to me. It's all done electronically. There are also a bunch of tutorials, walkthroughs, step-by-steps, lectures. I record all the lectures. There's a YouTube channel, so there's lots of other stuff that goes with it to try to help you guys out. So I try to make it as accessible as possible. And the other and last thing that you're going to do is you're going to be commenting on other students' work so that you're getting feedback and they're getting feedback, all of which is really important. This is what the website looks like, but we'll go through that in more detail a little bit later on. So you're all here right now, which is a good thing. The class schedule, we're going to start at 7:55, though realistically it's more like 8. I usually slide it just a little bit because people are trickling in and try to get the coffee, get logged in, and whatever. Please don't let that slide past 8, though. So I give you that 5-minute buffer, but get here, get started, get your computer started, all that kind of stuff during that buffer time. We're going to write comments during that buffer time, too. So we're going to go roughly for an hour every class, where I'll talk and I'll give the formal lecture. And then after that, we'll have our lab period. So from 8:55 to 11 is the lab. The 2 times run together. So some days I might talk a little bit less and we'll have a little bit more lab. Some days I might talk a little bit more and we have a little shorter lab. So it varies depending on the content and what we're exactly trying to do. It is on Mondays and it is on Wednesdays. The joys of college class. You only meet 2 days a week, which is fantastic. Office hours, like I said, in the mornings on Monday, in the afternoons on Wednesday. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to learn in this class? So the big things are the Adobe Suite. We'll cover in-depth Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. Those are the big 3. We'll spend a lot of time on each of those. We'll spend about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks on AutoCAD. So it's not designed to be the comprehensive AutoCAD class. But we'll spend a little bit of time, and what I try to do in the AutoCAD section is I try to focus on the things you really need to know from an architectural perspective. So the things that the general AutoCAD class isn't going to teach you. So how do you make sheet sets, how do you make layouts, how do you print things, those kinds of big questions. Not so much really learning to draw. If you've never touched AutoCAD in your life, that's totally okay. I'm not expecting any of you to have touched any of these things before. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on SketchUp. My guess is most of you have played with SketchUp by now. How many people have played with SketchUp before? Right? So, piece of cake. We will, instead of spending a bunch of time working on how to 3D model, we'll talk a lot about how do you get SketchUp out of SketchUp and make it look good. So we'll spend time doing that part of it. All of these things aren't designed to be little modules. Like we do Photoshop and then you forget all about Photoshop and you move on. They're meant to be building blocks. So we start with Photoshop, we spend a lot of time in Photoshop. After we're done with Photoshop, we move into InDesign. I'm assuming that you remember all the stuff that we talked about in Photoshop, and you'll do all that stuff when you do your InDesign layouts. So it's meant to be cumulative, and that's on purpose. So the student learning outcomes, I'm required to show you these. Likewise, they're required to be in the syllabus. You should be able to create digital presentations that incorporate images, text, graphics related to design. It's kind of a broad topic, but we'll work on covering that. You should be able to construct 2- and 3-dimensional digital representations of design elements. Again, pretty broad. You operate and manipulate images from peripherals such as scanners, printers, and digital cameras. That basically means that when you come out of this class, you need to be able to print stuff, and you need to be able to get photos and things that you've scanned into the computer and work with them. So that one's pretty easy. But there are a few things like I'll make you plot something and whatever, just so we can check those boxes. There's a book that's associated with this class. It's the Digital Tools for Architects Handbook. It needs to be updated for the second class, but the stuff for you guys is actually current. So you'll be good in that. It's available through lulu.com. That's the printer. They print on demand. So if you go in and you order one, they'll print it for you and send it to you. I think they're available in the bookstore. You might be able to get it used too. If you're going to buy it, go look for a coupon code. See if you can get yourself a discount. I'm not trying to do anything other than save you guys money. So go out there and do it. What it is it's a collection of all the tutorials and everything that we're going to do in the class in one place. So going down the road, I've talked to a lot of students who've moved on to Berkeley, and they say, oh yeah, I had to remember how to do clipping masks. And so what did I do? I went and got the book and looked it back up again because I forgot. So it's meant to be one of those things. I encourage you guys to take notes in it as you go forward. There is also a recommended book for the class. This is not required. It's the Layout Workbook by Kristen Cullen. It's a really good book for thinking about and doing layouts. It's really only relevant for the InDesign part of the class. So that's why it's not a required book. But when we're in that 2-week module, it's pretty good. The good news is there's not a lot of cost associated with this class. So if you have a little extra money and you want to buy another really good book, it's there for you as well. So grading, the all-important grading question. How do I get my grades in this class? What do I get graded on? Everybody wants to know that the first day. So here we go. Your grade is based on 4 primary things. First thing is lab exercises. We do those in class. Second thing is assignments. Those are things that you do outside of class. Third thing is your final portfolio. Notice that the percentage there is 30% of your overall grade. That's a big chunk. So don't forget about that chunk and put it to the last second. The last piece is participation, which is only 10% of your grade. I'll talk about each of these individually in the coming slides. It's my desire to have this course be as even of a workload as you can be. So you're kind of always doing about the same amount of work. Those of you that, how many people are in like 121 this semester? How many people are in 120? Okay, few hands. Everybody's shy in the first day, right? You don't have to be shy. If you're in one of those traditional architecture studio classes, there's a cycle of work. You're in there, then suddenly you do a ton of work, and it's really busy, and you feel like you're going to die, and then you turn stuff in, and you have your presentation, and then you go sleep for a while. Notice that I didn't say sleep in that first part of the curve. It's after, right? So you turn stuff in, and then you sleep. That is hard on you. If you have 2 classes that are like that, it's really hard because those sleep cycles might not match, and then you never sleep. So you get your sleep now and then don't sleep for the semester. It's not my goal to do that to you. We have an even workload. A lot of the work in this class can be done in class during the lab portion. So it's a great companion class. If you're in 121, you're in 120, great time to take this class because we'll be nice and smooth and they'll have the big spikes. And that's easy on you. Okay? So let's talk about these in a little bit more detail. So we'll start with the exercises. These lab exercises are worth 20% of your overall grade. They're graded on a pass, not pass system. So you should feel free to experiment and do whatever. And if it really didn't turn out, or it looks ugly, or you picked the wrong colors, it's okay. You're going to get 100%. You get credit for it because you did it. If you don't do it, guess what? You don't get credit. It's real simple. Okay? They're due at the end of the day that they're assigned. So today we have our first lab exercise. It's not really a big, challenging thing for you guys to do. But you have your first thing. You should be done by the end of class today. When you're done, boom, there you go. You get your credit. This is a great way to bring up your grade. You're here, you do the work, you get the 100%. Okay? So it's really important, though, for you to understand that this is where you learn. This is the process where you're trying to experiment. You're trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, how do I make this stuff work, what's the software trying to do, and if it doesn't turn out quite right, not the end of the world. That's the important thing about the lab exercises. Like I said, they're worth 20% of your overall grade. The assignments, however, they'll probably be 6 or 7. I'm still working it out. At this point, I'm thinking 6. Over the course of the semester, they're worth 40% of your overall grade, so bigger percentage of the class. They're based on the skills that you're using, but also the overall design. How did the end product turn out? Were you able to take what we've learned in class and make it apply to something? Were you able to understand what pieces applied and what didn't to your particular work? This is a design class. When you do work, not everything that I tell you is necessarily relevant. We can use the first example, your best photograph. Right, that'll be the first assignment. You're going to go out and take a photograph, then we'll do a bunch of post-processing stuff in Photoshop. We're going to make that photo look really good. But not everything that I teach you, levels, curves, dodge and burn, etc., are relevant for every single one of your photos. So you might not do everything that I tell you. And that's okay. You want to make it look the best it can possibly look. So it's graded based on your skills and what the end product really looks like. So the other thing about it is if you get your grade back, so let's say you turn in that first, we'll use that same first assignment, you turn in that first assignment, you get your grade back and you go, ooh, I didn't really like that one very much. Well, guess what? You can do a regrade on it. So for every one of the assignments, this is a lot, you can get your grade back from me, you can say, oh, I didn't like that grade, and you can do a regrade. You do it again. Now, the thing about a regrade is when you do that regrade, it's as if the first one never existed. So it gets wiped away completely. So it's not based on, did you do better than your last one? It's a fresh shot at it. So what I mean by fresh shot is that if you do worse, your grade goes down. If you do better, your grade goes up. Typically, everybody does better. Let's hope. But it's really important for you to understand that it's just like the first one didn't happen. The other thing about regrades is I only do regrades at the very end of the semester. So you'll turn it in. You can turn it in whenever you want, but it will only apply at the very end of the semester. So all the grade handouts and whatever will show what your original grade was, not the regrade. And I do that to save myself a little work. Don't tell anybody. Because at the end of the semester, if you already have an A, I don't need to go back and regrade your grades because you can't get higher than an A. Does that make sense? So if you already have an A, then you already have an A. It doesn't make any difference. But if you're lower than that, I'll go back and look at your regrades. I'll do the regrades. I have seen people improve their grades by letter grades. So if you had a C, I've seen people go from a C to a B in these kinds of things. I would suggest if you're going to do regrades, do it as you go and turn it in. Don't wait until the very end of the semester because you're going to be too busy at the end of the semester. So if you don't like your first grade, do the regrade right then. The final portfolio. This is worth 30% of your overall grade. That's a big chunk of your grade. It's designed to be a big chunk of your grade. This is the culmination project of the class. So the good news is we don't have a final exam. I'm not going to sit you down and say, guess what? I want you to show me how to do a clipping mask. No. We do this. So we do this final portfolio. It's designed to be a summation of your work in the class, but also I encourage you to bring work from outside. So if you're in 121, you're in 120, that's totally fair game. You bring that work in too. So any work that you've done, you bring into that portfolio. The portfolio is a living document. It's going to be updated as you go on in school. You're going to always be doing new projects. You put those new projects in and you get rid of the old stuff, like this class. So it's important that you start to believe in that and do that. If you apply for a job, they're going to ask you for a portfolio. You go on in school, you go to Berkeley, you go to Cal Poly, they're going to ask you for a portfolio. This is just a thing in the design world. So it's something to get started now, and we'll spend time during the semester. This is not something that you can just work on in class. It's going to require some outside work. The other thing about it is it's not something that you want to wait for the last week of the semester or the last 2 days of the semester and do it right before. I've had students who have had an A do terribly on the portfolio and drop their grade to a B because of it. I think I've had students who've gone all the way to a C because of it, which is technically possible. So it's really important to do a good job and to think about it and to carefully consider it, etc. There will be days where we focus just on the portfolio, so don't panic. There will be days where we focus just on that portfolio. We'll spend a day just designing the covers. We'll spend a day doing layouts, etc. The other thing is, remember those office hours that I talked about? You guys are always scared of me, and I never understand why you're scared of me. Right? Bring your portfolio to me and say, hey, can you look at it? Yeah, I'd love to. There's nothing better than doing something like that. So it's really important that you guys get that feedback, but you have to solicit it on your own. Okay? So, don't wait until the end. Start it early. You don't have to start it today. You don't have the skills yet. Okay? We'll start it in like October. So at that point, then you can start thinking about it. So I'm there. Come see me, and I'm happy to talk about it. You guys will learn really quickly that I like to talk. So if you get me talking on something, I'll probably talk about it. Course participation. This one's actually really important. So after each one of your exercises and after each one of your assignments, so remember lab exercises are on a daily basis. You're always going to have a lab exercise. Assignments, there's maybe 6 in the semester. I'm going to ask you to give constructive feedback to 3 of your fellow classmates. And you're going to do this through the website. And what I mean by constructive feedback is some kind of a comment that helps them become a better designer. And it's really important that you understand the purpose of this. So the comment that I don't want is I don't want somebody saying, oh, that's pretty. I really like pink. Or, that's just awful. How could you do something so terrible? Okay? Those are not good comments. Did that help in any way? No. So, the challenge here, when you give a comment, is to articulate what it is that somebody did particularly well, or what they did that could use a little improvement. So it's not designed to be sugar-coated. It's not designed to make people feel good. It's about becoming a better designer. How many people have sat through a review session before? Okay, a few of you. It's kind of hard, wouldn't you say? You have somebody come in, and they're there to pick apart your stuff and say what you did well or didn't do so well. And they have to find a way of explaining what you did right and what you didn't do right. Hopefully in a reasonably nice way. And some people have a little different style and they start tearing things apart, whatever. That might be a little extreme. You are a designer. You're in school to become a designer. You have to learn how to communicate as a designer and talk about what's working and what's not working. Those are really important skills for you to have. So this is designed for you to better those skills. So I don't want the "it's really pretty" comment. I like the composition of this because you've done such a great job bringing in the diagonal and it draws your attention from left to right across the image. That's constructive. That make sense? Yeah, your radial composition really focuses the energy of the photo on the center of the image, and that really helps bring out whatever. Those are all constructive comments. Maybe it doesn't have a good composition, so you take the negative of it. You say, I really think you should go back and revisit the composition of this image. Maybe you should try rule of thirds. That's designed to be helpful. And if none of that made any sense, whatever I just said, those comments, don't worry, we'll get to that in a future lecture. So it's really important for you to be able to verbalize that, communicate that with your friends. Okay? Materials. You need to have a flash drive or a hard drive for this class. It used to be that everybody had a flash drive, and also it used to be that flash drives were ridiculously expensive. I remember in grad school, this is way back in like 2007, I got a flash drive that was a 1 gig flash drive. And you know what? That flash drive cost like 120 bucks. Now you can get like a 16 gig flash drive for like 4 bucks. Okay? I would recommend 32 gigs or more. I've seen more and more people going to the little external hard drives. That's fine. Remember, it's a moving part, so be gentle with it. Likewise, with your flash drives, these ports on the front of the computer are exactly the same height as your knees. So people have a tendency to turn their chair and break their flash drives off. I've had it happen twice. So just be aware of those kinds of things. Okay? The other thing that's important, how many people have taken a class here at DVC before in one of the computer labs? Okay, a couple of you. For those of you that haven't taken a class, I need to be real clear about something. If the computer turns off, everything that you've done is gone. So if you save something on the desktop and the computer turns off, it's not there anymore. That's how they're designed. So they're frozen. They're in a state where every time they restart, they go back to the beginning. So you can't save anything on the computers. So we're going to talk at length about how do you back up your stuff, how do you keep copies of your files, how do you sync your files, etc. We'll talk about that next class, which is why you need your flash drive or your hard drive before next class. That's your homework. So we have to have a way of saving it to something that you take away, whether that's to the cloud or whether it's to a hard drive. I would definitely recommend not using, oh, I'll just download it from Google Drive and put it on the desktop. It's not the best system. I've seen people do it, and it can be done, but we're going to try to do it locally from a hard drive or from a flash drive. So 32 gigs or bigger. If you're in a lot of classes and you anticipate using lots of things and storing lots of files, let's say you're in my 135 and my 136, add space to this. The more space you have, the better. Okay, that's kind of where you're more in the hard drive category. Be careful to safeguard your flash drive. I'll tell you lots of doom and gloom stories next class about how people lose their stuff, but guess what? It happens. Likewise, people take that flash drive, they put it in their pocket, and then they take their pants off when they get home because they're dirty, and they put them in the wash. And guess what? That flash drive is going through the wash. They can survive a fair amount of that, but not all the time. So be careful with that. So it is your job to keep track of your flash drive and your work. If you come to me later on in the semester and you say, I broke off my flash drive and I lost all my work, I'll say, bummer. Sorry, can't help you. So it's your job. It's a college class. You can keep track of that flash drive. I promise you. Okay, so be careful. We'll talk a lot more about this next class. A digital camera. Most of you have phones now. It's so funny that that's changed. Since I started teaching, it was like you had to have a separate digital camera. Now everybody just has their phone. That's fine. But taking pictures is something that's really important. Learning how to take quality pictures is also really important. So if you have something like that, that's great. Bring it. If you don't have a phone with a good camera on it and you don't have a digital camera, we'll pair you up with somebody that does. Though I highly doubt that that's going to be the case for anybody. So those are the materials. Attendance is also mandatory in this class. So yes, I record all the lectures. Yes, I post all the lectures to YouTube. If you happen to be gone for a day, I'll encourage you to go watch the YouTube video. That's what they're there for. But you are required to be here in class. And the reason that you're required to be here in class is because I might be explaining something and you might not understand. And if you're here in class, you can raise your hand and say, wait a minute. Can you do that again? That's okay. By all means, please stop me. Please ask me a question. That's why we're here. So I do require that you're in class. I will take attendance at some point during the class. And this is how I do it to keep you guys honest. Okay? So sometime between the start of class and the very, very last minutes of class, I will take roll. And I do that based on your seating chart. So like I told you guys, next time I'm going to assign all the seats. So when you come into class next time, that will be your seat for the rest of the semester. So if you're really hung up on having a certain seat, come in early and get your seat. Okay? So that'll be assigned. You'll sign up for those seats. And I'll go through really quickly, and I can take roll really quickly to see who's here and who's not here. Okay? I do that at some point randomly during the class. Likewise, I ask that you be here on time. Not on time means not being in your seat with your computer on by 8. Okay, so I told you we had that 5-minute flex in the beginning because we technically start at 7:55. I expect you to be in your seat, computer on at 8. If you're late, you get docked points. If you're gone, you get docked points. That's how the whole attendance thing works. This whole attendance thing counts for half of your participation grade. So if you remember back to that slide, your participation grade was 10%. Half of it, 5%, is your comments. The other half, 5%, is your participation in the class, which is basically your attendance. You can't leave class early. Trust me, you all have other work to do. You don't know it yet. For those of you in 121, you already have work to do, but you just don't know yet. You have work to do. So you will always have stuff to do. Just start doing that. That's okay. So if you finish early, do something else, but you got to stay here. Okay, so your questions are, at this point, if you've paid attention so far, what happens if I need to go to the bathroom? I've chained you to your desk. You can't leave. No, I'm just kidding. No, of course. Of course. If you need to step out and go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. If you need to go get some coffee, go get some coffee. It's an early class. I get it. Okay? Do make sure if you have coffee or tea or whatever that has a lid on it, so you don't knock it over on top of the computers. Just be nice to everybody. If you need to go get coffee, just step out and go get coffee. It's a college class. I don't need to know. If you need a break, go out. It's all good. And you say, well, wait a minute. What if you take attendance while I'm gone? Okay, I'll see you come back in and I'll get it. I think over the course of the semester, I might miss 1 or 2 over the course of the semester. And chances are, if you told me, I go, oh yeah, I remember you that day and I just forgot and didn't check you off. So don't worry about it. It's a pretty good system. Nobody's ever had issues with it before. Okay? Okay. So if you miss 2 weeks of class or more, you may be withdrawn from the class at my discretion. If you're going to be absent from class, you must tell me before the start of class. Okay, this is not something that's that challenging. Somehow in school, students don't get it. So let's translate it to you have a job. Say you work at Starbucks. What would happen if you just didn't show up and you didn't tell anybody? Anything? You just have your job the next day? No. You get fired, right? So guess what? It's on you to tell your boss, I'm not going to be in. And chances are they'd cover for you and it'll be okay. But if you don't tell them, you'd be like, you're not working here anymore. So same thing applies here. It's school, but this is your job. So you have to tell me ahead of time that you're not going to be here. And this is like common courtesy. Same thing applies for me. Okay? How much would it suck if you guys all showed up and I just decided not to show up for the day? Well, you guys would probably be like, oh, sweet, he's not here, right? But it would be pretty mean of me to make all of you come to find that out. So in the rare instance where I'm sick or something happens and I can't be here, I promise I'll email you as soon as I know I can't be there. So you don't spend your time driving here and driving back and fighting the traffic and all the rest of it. Okay? So it applies for me just the same as it applies for all of you. So it's not hard. I give you my email address. I give you my phone. You can have Siri text me if you're going to be late. If you're going to be gone, send me a text. Send me an email. Hey, I'm not going to be here. Okay? That's really important. It's actually built into the role system so that if you give me the notification that I asked for, you earn back some of the points that you lost for being gone that day. So it's actually better to just let me know because you get more points out of it. If you don't complete 3 assignments in the class, well, guess what? You're not going to do very well in the class. So you may be dropped or you might receive an F. I have to be honest, and I tell you guys this on the first day, and I tell all my classes this on the first day. This is a college class. My guess is that a lot of you have taken a college class before. If you've never taken a college class, welcome to college. You're responsible for you in college. When you move on to Berkeley or Cal Poly, there will not be somebody holding your hand and making sure that you survive. It's all on you. So, when I say may be dropped or may receive an F, it would be my personal preference to give you an F if I had a choice. because I think you should have the responsibility to take yourself out of the class. So if you're not doing well, and I will prod you as it gets toward that point in the semester, the last day to withdraw with a W, I'll prod you and say, hey, you're not looking too good. But I try to put that on you. So if you feel like you're not going to do well in the class, pull yourself out. Withdraw yourself. Don't rely on somebody else to do it for you. It's really important. That's part of being a college class. So don't be afraid to drop yourself, but this is not a class where you need to drop. You can all do really well. Actually, I would say most of the time, most of my students get A's and B's. It's very rare. You have to screw up pretty bad to do worse than that. So this is very much achievable. So I tell you this on the first day because I want to scare you a little bit. Let's be honest. But at the same time, I want to be honest about it with you. And I want to say, hey, this is your job now. And you take responsibility for yourself. So the assignment dates will be announced in class. They'll also be on the course calendar. It's pretty obvious. At the beginning, it's fairly quick. It's like a week, week and a half. But there will always be a weekend. So I'll never give you something on a Monday and expect it back by Wednesday. There will always be a weekend in there on an assignment. Assignments are due before I start talking on the day that they're due. So if we had an assignment due today, don't worry, we don't. But if we had one due today, you would have had to have turned it in on the course website before I start talking for it to be on time. The reason I do this is I don't want you trying to post it and not listening to me while I'm talking. So get it done before, that way it's on time. If it's late, it's going to be marked late and you're going to lose points on it. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Exercises. They're due at 11 on the day that they're assigned, essentially the end of class on the day that they're assigned. This class ends at 11. They screwed up the time, so I'm still getting used to that. Late assignments are graded down by 10% for each day that they're late. So we had an assignment due today, which we didn't, but if we did, you didn't turn it in before I started talking, you have until Wednesday at the start of class to turn it in. You would lose 10%, so if it was an A, it becomes a B. If you don't turn it in by Wednesday, you have until the following Monday to turn it in. Actually, in this case, Monday's a holiday, so it would be the following Wednesday. So it's the next class day to turn it in. If you didn't turn it in, you keep dropping the letter grades. The maximum credit you can get on an assignment, even if it's like 5 weeks late, you just do it, I'll give you 50% for doing it. So it's still better to turn it in than not turn it in at all. Assignments that are not handed in receive a 0. Okay, so don't tell anybody. I have a question for you. Is it better to have work late or to turn something in on time and then do a regrade? So you guys see how the late work is really punitive versus the regrade? The reason that the late work is really punitive is because in real life, you can't be late. Let's say you're trying to submit, okay, we're using an architectural example. You're trying to submit a set of drawings to the county, or you're trying to submit a set of drawings for design review, and you got to get on that board meeting. You have a certain deadline when you have to turn your drawings in to be able to get on the agenda for that meeting. If you're 5 minutes late, they won't put you on the agenda. Oh, too bad. Better luck next time. That's real life. You can't be late, so don't be late here. Turn something in, do a regrade. But I didn't tell you that. Additional general guidelines. Okay, so there are 30 to 32 of you. There is one of me. I try really hard to sit down and help every one of you individually as best that I can. The truth is that it takes me time to get from one side of the room to the other side of the room and back. So the worst thing that you can do is sit there and do the lean back with your hand up. That's not helping. Not helping anybody, right? I want to help you. Turn to your neighbor. Say, hey, do you know how to do this? What about you? Do you know how to do this? One of them might know. In which case you can get unstuck and keep moving on. So don't be afraid to talk to your neighbors. The other thing that I've found is a lot of times people like to look at previous semesters' YouTube videos. So let's say we're in the next class and you need help on something. You look up the lecture from last semester because it's roughly close. And you say, okay, well, how did he do that? That's another way of looking at it. Look at the tutorial. Follow the step-by-steps. So there's lots of ways to get you unstuck. I mean, heaven forbid, you could type it into Google, how do I do blah, blah, blah. And it might be able to help you. So there's lots of ways to get yourself unstuck, and that'll help you. But big one is ask your neighbors. Don't be silent, ask your neighbors. I suggest you take notes inside the book, because then when you move on somewhere, you're in a different class, you can go back and say, oh yeah, this is what I did. Because you have your own notes, you kind of translate it in your mind, this is how I need to do something. So like I said many times, is I try to record every lecture and post it on YouTube. Sometimes something happens and the lecture crashes, the audio goes bad, the slides didn't advance, whatever. Okay? If that happens, you can always view the previous semester's lectures, and I'll show you how you find those relatively easily. And so they're all there. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/digitaltoolsforarch. That's where all the videos are posted. I also have specific playlists for each class and each semester, so I'll do that. Watching the recordings is not the same as being in class. You're still required to be here. I have to just emphasize that. It's not an online class. Last thing here, all the work done in the class is done under a Creative Commons license. So when you make stuff and submit it, there's no like copyright. Like, I own that, right? We're all here, we're all learning. Believe it or not, I had a student who had serious issues with this at one point. And so we had to kind of work through it. But you're here, you're learning. You're not at a place where the work you're doing is so precious you need copyright on it. You're trying to learn the whole process. So don't worry about that part. If you have questions about it, I can talk you through it a little bit later on. So let's look at some student work, the kinds of things that you're going to be doing, because it's nice to get your brain kind of around what it is that we're going to go through. Photography, we'll start with just basic photographic techniques. We'll talk about post-processing. How do you bring out shadows? How do you show highlights? How do you compose images? What does good composition look like, etc. And I'm just flipping through various images. Lots of these are available on the course website, so you can see them later on in the semester as well. We'll get into some advanced photo editing, where we combine images that don't belong together. This has to do a lot with collage work, and it's something you'll do a lot in your design. You need to be able to bring something from one place, put it in another place, cut it out, make it look like it belongs in a scene. Sometimes they end up being more artistic. They're just different strategies. Then we'll get into layout and graphic design. We'll do posters. We'll talk about typography, fonts, font choice. Why do you pick one font versus another? Those of you that are in 121, you're going to do your first poster for 121. You're going to pick the wrong font, and you're going to have to do it over again. I'll tell you that right now. For those of you that have taken 120 on, you're all like, yep. Okay? So we're going to talk about why you would choose certain fonts. How do you lay things out? Compositional techniques, hierarchy, etc. You can see that every one of these is different. We'll get into CAD drafting. We'll do basic views of a building, plans, elevations, etc. We'll talk about doing layouts. We'll work through collage. How do you add colors, etc. None of these are the best examples. I need to update these to have some newer examples of them. Then we'll get into 3D modeling and collage. We'll talk about how do you take something that you've modeled and put it into a scene. How do you make it feel like it's part of that scene and belong in that scene? We'll do various views. We'll do perspective views. We'll do sections. We'll do elevations, etc. So all of this modeling is done with SketchUp, and then the post-processing is done in Photoshop for the most part. We'll talk about integrating the various programs, doing some work in SketchUp, bringing it into Photoshop, doing other work in AutoCAD, bringing it into Illustrator. So how do you integrate all of these various software packages and make them work together for you? And I'll end with this slide, then we'll take a quick break and we'll move on into the lab section of the class. But I think one of the exciting things is, having taught this class for 12 years, is every semester you guys come in and you do something different. You do something that I haven't seen before. I mean, there's a few things that are getting a little old, like Charlie Harper, but we'll get to that a little later on in the semester. I'm thinking about changing that this semester. But the truth of it is that you guys create different things. You approach the world differently than last semester or the semester before. You interact with each other in a different capacity, and that's part of what makes it exciting for me. It's part of why I like to come here and I like to teach, because you guys are inspiring me just like I hope to inspire you. So I think this question is a really good one, because over the course of the semester, you're going to create a lot of interesting stuff. And I can't wait to see it. Okay, so we're going to take a break. It's 8:52 right now. We'll come back at 9, and we'll start with the lab section of the class. Okay, so we're going to get started back up again. Sorry it took a little longer than I thought. So what is typical of our class is we have that first lecture period. I'll give you a little break in between. It's kind of like a coffee bathroom break sort of thing. Then we'll come back and I'll do the demo of the lab portion. Sometimes I'll combine the lab portion demo with the first half and then we'll take a break afterward. It varies a little bit depending on the content. But I like to go through and I like to actually walk you through the steps of the things that we're doing and show you how to do it live, etc. When I do these kinds of things, I always do them live. So stuff goes wrong, computers crash, etc. That's part of the nature of working on computers. It always kind of works out that way. So today we're going to do two primary things. This is the course website. I'm going to walk you through the course website on what's on there. Most of you either had a previous login or got an email about a week ago or so with a username and a login. If you didn't get one, or if you're trying to add to the class or something like that, you might not have a login yet. That's okay. We'll set you up with one in a little bit, and you can get through and do it. The goal today is to get that sort of thing set up. So if you've messed around with the website and you didn't have an account, you realize that there's like, for the people that aren't in my classes, there's like a pay thing where you can subscribe. You guys don't have to do that. You're in the class, you get it. And you actually, it's not an expiring thing. You get it forever. As long as I'm still teaching and the website still works, you get it. So forever is a relative term. I don't plan on going anywhere. So let's talk through the course website first. I like to kind of walk you through what's going on and where the content is and that sort of thing. And then we'll talk about making your first post. And I'll walk you through that part as well. So the course website, when you first come up here, you'll notice that the menu structure going across here, this is where all of your content is going to live. In the About tab, if you come down, you guys are going to be the 135. So you're always looking for RT 135 or Digital Tools for Designers. Under that drop down, we have a syllabus, we have the course calendar, and we have calendar feeds. We'll talk about the calendar and calendar feeds next class in a little more detail. But if you needed a copy of the syllabus or you were trying to look up my phone number or whatever, it's there. You just have to log into the website and it would be there as well. If we move over into the Lectures tab, which is the next tab over, again, you guys are looking for 135. This would be you. And you'll see that under there I have our semester, fall 2019. When you click on that, you would get to a page that looks like this. And so it'll list all of the lectures as I put them up. When you actually click on one of the lectures, and the YouTube feeds aren't quite set right because I don't have any lectures in the playlist just yet. If you were to click on Lecture 101, it would take you to today's lecture page right here. And you'll see that under recording, lecture not available yet. So I'll try to post that there as well, though sometimes I end up posting it on YouTube and I forget to put it on the course website. So you can always check YouTube to see. But you'll also see below where it says recording, here are the previous lecture videos. Then you see that there's a few where the recordings didn't work, so they've got strike-throughs on them. But generally speaking, all of these are previous versions. Not that you would want to watch my course introduction again, but for a different lecture, it might be relevant to go back and see it. And so if you were to click on one of these, it would take you to YouTube, and it would show you. Right, so I'm guessing that is the worst speaker ever. And it would. We're going to do that to it, so it stops doing that on me. And it'll take you to YouTube, and you can see the lecture from a previous semester. So I just try to point that stuff out so it's there. The other thing that I have below that, there'll be a category for lecture downloads. This is where you can download a PDF of all the slides that I showed in lecture. Again, not so relevant for the course introduction, but down the road you might want to do it, or you might want to see the higher quality image, etc. I give you two different versions. The first one here is the full slides, one slide per page. The second one is if for some reason you wanted to print it, it'll give you a 4 slides per page layout, so it saves a little bit of paper if you want it. So both of those are available for you to click and download if you want. And below that, I have lecture notes. For this particular lecture, there's not too many lecture notes. I just have a link to the syllabus. But sometimes I'll have a bunch of notes below that give you links and whatever that are there. So those are the lectures, and they'll be available there. If you went to a previous semester, like this one, for example, you'd see that the lectures just keep stacking on as we go down in the course of the semester toward the end. Okay, so they're all there. So if you needed to go see something, you could look at that. Though I try to post everything into this particular semester's, and that's where they'll be. Next tab over are our tutorials. These are little write-ups that I've written on things that we do in class. So in the Photoshop section, for example, if we were doing a levels adjustment, this will happen in about 2 weeks because of that holiday. I have a write-up here that'll talk you through everything. It includes images, etc. There's also a video that's there, so you can watch the video. So I try to make it so it's as accessible as possible. So you've got lots of different ways to learn it and see it, etc. So they're all there, and you can go through and look at whatever it is. But I will refer to them, and/or in the exercises pages, I'll have links to certain things that so if I reference a tutorial, there'll be a link to it. You can go there and watch or see. Next tab over is exercises. This is where you guys will be going. You are, again, 135, fall of 2019. If you click on that, it will bring it up. It looks very similar to the lectures. This exercise 101 is our exercise for today. If you were to click on that, it will load up exercise 101 here. This text is what is on the handout. So it's the same thing. At the very end of this, there's a link to download the PDF. That link is this PDF handout. So they always correspond. So if you missed the class, you could go back and print based on the PDF, or you could just do it online. Like I said, I threaten every semester, and I'm really tempted to just go away with the paper copies because it's all here. But for some reason, some people really like the paper copies, so I hesitate. Anyway, so it's there. And like I said, when I do it, I include the links to various things. So when it's possible, I put the links in so you can just click on them, etc. The next tab over is assignments. You'll see right now that there is no fall of 2019 because you haven't had an assignment yet. So there's nothing for you to click on, but you could see previous assignments if you wanted to for some reason. Next tab over is resources. These are things not quite as relevant for this class as they are for the Rhino class, but there are things that you might want to download and use. They might be cutouts of people, they might be swatches or tiling textures, etc. They're just resources that I've found that I think are useful to you or that students have posted, etc. Next category over here is student work. So under student work, I could go to the 135, I could go to exercises, and I could choose exercise 101. That's what you're doing today. And when I do that, it would pull up all the posts that people have made for exercise 101, going back in history. We can keep going back. When you guys make your posts today, yours will show up and start filling this in. So you'll see the most current ones first. So all of the student work is available from previous semesters. You can see there's all the exercises. You could also go into the assignments, and you could say, show me all of the assignment posts. These are various assignments that people have done over the past semesters. Okay? So all of that's available under student work. You can get there. And then the last one is the whole login thing. So if I were to click on login, it would take me to this page where you would type in your username or email address. For those of you that I set up accounts for, it was based on your Insight ID. It was your first initial dot, your last name, or whatever, based on your Insight. Likewise, I used your Insight email address as your email address. I'm going to show you how you can change that if you want, because a lot of times people don't want their email to be sent to that. But that was the email I had for you, so that's what you got. That's where it started. So if you already got a password, you can type in your password there. If you don't, you can click on the lost your password, which is this one, where you can type in your username, and it'll send you an email with a new password in it. It tries to do secure passwords, so it gives you kind of a random string of passwords or random string of letters and numbers, and you'll use that to log in at least for the first time. So once you've logged in, you'll be taken to the back side of the website. So that's all the front side of the website. Let's see if I can get to the back side of the website. It's always good when you Why is it not? Oh, you know what? I may have logged in as the wrong person. Sorry, I try to use a, there it is. Nope, it won't let me. Sorry. I try to have a student account so that it looks the way yours does as opposed to logging into my master account. So give me just a second to log in. And because I have the keyboard capture on you, I have to make it so that you can't see it when I log in. So bear with me for just a second. And I apologize. There we go. So mine's going to look slightly different than yours because I'm the administrator, so I have a lot more options that you won't see in there. But essentially, the back end of the website is this dashboard. So like I get notifications like this, PHP update required. Thanks, appreciate that. So you won't see that kind of stuff, which is good. Likewise, I have a lot more stuff on the left side here. This is kind of the back end of the website. This is where your posts will live, etc. You will be concerned with posts and all posts. Those are something that's important to you guys. Likewise, if we come all the way down here, there will be a link to your profile. Again, it'll just say your profile. It won't be like mine with all of, because I can edit all of you, so I have a little bit more privilege. This is where I was trying to take you to. This is the profile section where you can make some edits to your particular profile. So if I were to come down here, for example, you'll see that I have my first name and my last name. I put those in. So if you want to go by something other than your Insight ID, you can do that as well. You can choose how you want your name displayed publicly. So I could change, and I could be just Grant, I could be Grant Adams, etc. So you've got flexibility there as well. We'll talk about these various pieces a little bit later. If you want to change your password, you can click on Generate Password, and it will give you a random string. The key here is that if you don't like this particular password, you can actually type in, whatever, my dog 123 or whatever. Notice that it does audit your password and say that's a very weak password. We'll talk about passwords next class, that you might want to make something a little bit more challenging than that. If you want to use a very weak password, you have to actually check a box saying, yes, I want to use a weak password. So it really wants you to do something a little bit better. I'm not going to change my password. I'm going to click cancel. Don't need to change my password right now. But I wanted to point you out as to where that would be when you need to change it. OK. So that kind of walks you through the website. We'll work through more about the website a little bit later on in the semester. You'll learn a lot more about it as we go forward. So big things is you want to make sure that you can log in today, which is important. You got your login. If you are struggling with that part of it, I'll sit and I'll help you log in. And then we'll move on to part 2, which is to make your first post for the course website. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to go to a design-related website. It could be ArcDaily if you're interested in architecture. It could be an industrial design. How many people are ID students here? One? Only one? Wow. Industrial design. No? How many people are in architecture? All right. That's skewed a little differently than it normally is. I'll take it. No problem. It is cross-listed, so we get industrial design students coming through as well, which is good. If you're interested in something that isn't architecture, don't panic. Just adapt what I say to architecture or to industrial design. So when I say look at an architectural website, look at something industrial design related. If you're more interested in graphic design or you're more interested in landscapes, that's cool too. Find something that's kind of related to that. So I'll say generically the design field. Once you find something that you're particularly interested in, let's say it's this, take a little bit of time and read about it, learn what's going on. I like the ArcDaily website because they have lots of interesting information to look through, and they have great images and sometimes drawings, etc. So once you've found something that looks interesting to you, so this is the Skyscape rooftop house. I'm going to make a post about this particular building. So I'm going to leave this open as a tab. I'm going to come back to my digital tools site here. And it doesn't matter where you are. You can be on the front end of the site, or you could be on your profile page. There's going to be a button here for new. And if you go to new, right below it will be post. So it's a little plus sign, and you'll say new post. And like I said, I have a few more options than you guys do because I'm in my admin side. And so this page right here is how we're going to create all the posts when you turn in an exercise or you turn in an assignment. And like I said, if it seems a little bit complicated, don't panic. I promise you, within a week or two, this is like second nature. It's really easy. Okay? So we're going to make a new post, and it's going to be, for me, about this skyscape rooftop house. I'm going to copy the title here, like that. So I just press Control-C to do that. I'm going to jump back over into my Add Post, and under the title here, I'm going to put that in. And again, you could title it anything you want. You could also say that this is Exercise 101. Oops. I can't even type my own name. How about that? OK, so that is where the title goes in this particular. Below that, I have basically this is like a Word document. Anything that I type in here will be posted. So I want to type a summary about this particular house. I'm not going to spend a lot of time summarizing this house. But I might say this is a particularly interesting house because of the junction between the roof plane and the sky. It's a very thin junction. So I might type something about that in my post. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? You guys would spend a little bit more time. I'm asking for a short paragraph, right? 3 or 4 sentences, something about that. Then I'd love for you guys to put a link in. So below that, I hit return, and I'm down here. I might say link to original article. And then I'll put the link underneath. I'm going to come back to my page here. I'm going to copy this link. So I'll right-click and say copy. I'll go back to my new post, and I can go ahead and paste this in. There it is. This isn't a clickable link yet. So in order to make it clickable, I'll take the link and I'll select it. And then right up here are all of my tools. There's a little chain icon. I can click a link, and that then makes it a link that somebody would be able to click on. Okay. I have other formatting things right here. I can choose bold, italics. I could put a bullet point in. These are all typical word processing type things. I'm not asking for anything particularly fancy when you set things up, but I like to point out that you have the ability to do those kinds of things as well. So at the very top here, under Add New Post, you see that there's a little error saying this entry has no featured image. So in this class, you're always going to have to put a featured image in. It won't let you actually publish the post until you've done that. So we have to find an image of this particular building. So this is a nice image here. Here it is. We'll see if we can save image as, and I'll put it on the desktop. There it is. And now I need to go back to my original post, and I need to add that as the featured image. So on the right side here, if I scroll all the way to the very bottom, the last thing right there is something that's called featured image. And you can see here, set featured image is a little link. We're going to click on that set featured image. And then I'll click right here for upload files. I can click select files. I could drag and drop, or I can select files. I'll go to the desktop. There's my image. I'll say open. It will upload it. You won't see all of these images. The reason I see them all is because I'm the administrator, so I see everybody's images. You'll see just yours. So I'll click on that, and then I'll say set featured image. And it'll show up there as the featured image. And if we scroll all the way back up, that little error at the top has gone away. So it's going to allow me to publish it at this point, which is a good thing. One more thing that I have to do before I publish, I need to be able to categorize this correctly. So I'm going to scroll down until I see this categories section. And we are going to be in the Digital Tools for Designers section. There we are, Digital Tools for Designers. It's not an assignment. It is an exercise, and it's exercise 101. So I'm checking those boxes for categories, which is going to help put it in the correct place. It's going to allow me, as somebody grading it, to be able to see it in the correct place. It'll allow other students to be able to see it in with all the rest of the student work categorized correctly. So once I have those categories set, you can ignore the rest of these tabs. None of the rest of these are relevant right now. So I have those set, and then I will go ahead and click Publish. So when I click Publish, it's like handing something in. It's like, there it is, I'm done. And so I'm publishing this right now. There it is. And now that it's published, you'll see up here in this green little notification here that I can view my post. And I can take a look at what it looks like. So I'll click on View Post, and there it is. So there's a little information about me on one side. There's my featured image, and here's my paragraph, and there's my link. Now if I go on the course website here, number one, if I go to the home page and I scroll down a little bit, yep, there's my post under the student work category. There's only 8 shown here, so as posts go, yours will disappear, but it is showing up there. If I go to student work and then go to exercise 101, it will show up right there. That's part of how the categorizing works. So it'll show up in its correct folder. If you find that you made a mistake, like there was some spelling that was wrong or whatever, and you wanted to go back and make that correction, if you click on your post, there will be a button up here at the top that says Edit Post. You can go back in and edit your post and make any corrections, like house was spelled wrong, etc. When you're done, you just click Update, and it will update that post for you. So it's not a finished thing. You can always make your updates and make corrections if you notice the spelling was wrong or something like that. If you want to see all of your posts, you would go to the Post section on the left side here, click on All Posts, and it will show you posts. It should show you just yours. I see everybody's because I'm the administrator. So that's the way life works as the administrator. There's my particular post. Okay? So your goal today is to actually create your first post. If you have trouble, I'll help you get through it so you create that first post. Once you're done creating that post, you're free to go. You don't have to stay here the whole day. Even though I said that in the beginning, the first couple days, it's kind of the way of the first couple days. Let me know if you have any questions. If you did not sign this sheet, please make sure you sign it. Remember, next class, the seats will be assigned. So at that point, it will be your seat for the rest of the semester, and that's how I'm going to take my role. If you still want to add to the class, looks like there'll probably be some space, so I think that'll be good. Don't leave before we talk. Likewise, I want to make sure you get an account set up for this. So we'll go through and we'll do that in just a second. Are there any questions for anybody right now? No? All right, sounds good. Good deal.